Okay, thank you very much for waiting. Welcome back to SSE 2021. Coming up now, we have ourselves Sonic Robo Blast 2 from ArcaniaCQ. So take it away.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Arcania, and today I will be doing Sonic Robo Blast 2. It's a really fun game that is based on the Doom engine, but it's also a Sonic fan game, so it's quite interesting. I'm also having Lunik with me here, which is going to be helping me with the commentary. So, yeah, want to introduce yourself?
Pleasure, everyone. I'm Lunik. I run this game as well. I run Knuckles and 200 emblems, so I kind of know the game inside and out. I'm here to help provide a commentary over Tales for this. Very excellent run, very excellent game. Completely built from the ground up from Dude Legacy. Been in the works for 20 years now. It's crazy. But Arcania, are you all set?
Yeah, I'm all set.
All right. If everything else is ready, I can give a countdown. We'll be going in 3, 2, 1, go. So, the cool thing about Sonic Robo Blast 2, the game is constantly filled with action. We'll be platforming basically the whole way through. There's almost no downtime as far as like visually neat goes. The first two stages are very, very quick. I accidentally missed those speed shoes, but thankfully there's a quick spin fly here. That you're going to be seeing this technique in general a lot. Spin fly is the fastest way Tails can move about the stages. He retains most of his speed while flying, but he loses a little bit every time he flies up. So we want to manage our flight distance with how fast we go up. Something interesting too about the flight pattern of Tails is rather than moving normally, we actually just control our camera. It's really a fluid movement and completely different. This trick right here that we're going to try and do, without going at your full jump height, you want to try and land on a monitor or an enemy. And then as you're coming up, Tails will fly, and it brings him up really fast. This lets us carry that speed shoe all the way up to the mountain. Basically, we're going to carry it all the way to the finish here. Both green flower zones, very short stages. Most of the stages in general should last a little less than a minute, but we'll have a couple of slobber knockers a bit later. First boss fight coming up here for Green Flower 3. Every boss fight is Eggman. It's a Sonic game. Very annoying boss fight for speedrunners. Normally when digging it's slow, it's very quick, but Eggman can just decide to fire almost instantly, and it's very frustrating. He also has a 50-50 shot of either going left of your positioning from him or right. We usually try and kind of manipulate it so he gets a little bit closer to the walls, but unfortunately Eggman's not really working out for us, and again, he hit fire very quickly. Still a very fast run. Anything like sub 20 seconds is pretty decent for that area. Barring any horrible RNG, and not dying is always excellent. Moving on, Techno Hill. This has some of my favorite tracks in the entire game. Sadly, we instantly ruin them because we get speed shoes. Speed shoes overwrite the music, but we need them to go fast. Mostly just going to be carrying the speed shoes for as long as possible. These two stages are a little annoying because there's a lot of tight corridors that makes movement a little bit difficult. But overall, it's not too difficult. They're still early on stages. It just, like, as far as going fast, it's a little difficult. You see there, Arcania was able to kind of retain his speed shoes through the whole flight, and then use that extra momentum to go on the slope to get a bit higher to the yellow spring. Every little bit just to save the time. Oh, I am a little delayed, but just a quick skip and a jump there to the finish. Techno 2, gonna be more of the same. We actually had a mechanic in the previous stage that we completely avoided. There's purple goop. Tails actually can fly through it a little bit because it's treated as a liquid. And so we use that downward momentum to get down into it. We have one other instance where we touch it, but the rest of the stage we're not even going to see it. It's actually a very annoying mechanic because the characters just kind of bounce into it and get stuck for a little while. Thankfully, they have like a foolproof of it where if you are in the goop for over 10 seconds, you regain control of your character, but anytime you get hit in the goop, you much rather just be dead. So coming up here, we are going to have a small tension moment. We have crushers we're going to try and avoid. Oh, thankfully Arcania got an excellent cycle. Able to get the speed from the conveyor belt, carry it into a jump with the speed shoes, and fly straight up there, skipping basically half the level. It's actually a very excellent Techno 2. Almost no hiccups at all. Missed a little bit on the jump closer to the end, but the one thing you'll notice a lot about Tails, there's a lot of fun, interesting platforming sections that Sonic and company have to do. Tails doesn't care. Tails has free roaming movement in a 3D environment. He will go wherever he wants, whenever he wants, just as long as we are maintaining our flight. Tails does eventually get tired, and that's probably the most conscious thing we have to keep on. Techno 3 boss fight can be slightly annoying. He goes on a set circular pattern, and it's pretty easy to predict where he's going, and anytime we have difficulties, we can just kind of stand in his way. His pinch phase, he just kind of runs backwards and shoots more goop. The goop itself just stays on the ground for a set long time. It's not a difficult boss fight at all.
Yeah, not at all.
Coming up here, we have Deep Sea Zone. These levels are... the first one goes by a little bit quick, but Deep Sea Zone 2 is a very long stage, about 2 minutes for most characters. And a lot of it's just kind of automated. They try to make like a puzzle type deal with it, but unfortunately, puzzles don't really work super well in a fun, speedy platforming game. Tends to be a little bit of a drenner. Accidentally got a little water skip there. It's a neat mechanic, but if you spin on top of the surface of waters, you can actually bounce for a little bit. There's not too much going on. I don't know if you have any donations or anything you'd like to say quite yet.
Not at this moment, but I will take this time to just quickly remind anyone of the donation incentives. So any kind of incentives that you want that are there for any donations that you put through, you can put !open bid wars in the chat, and that will take you to a page to see the current standings on the bid wars, as well as on the Tiltify page you can see any kind of targets, including a few others coming up for Sunday, which being Resident Evil 7, where you can choose whether to save Zoe instead of Mia, as well as Ape Escape 2's option to add the DLC monkeys for the run, and a couple of other polls in there as well. Definitely worth taking a look, and if you're considering donating, definitely put that towards a donation incentive.
Oh, we did skip over just a little bit. There was a moment here at the beginning of Deep Sea Zone 2. In the most recent patch for SRB 2, it is still getting updates to this day. They are things called hyperwalls, which are basically angled walls. Doom is built on a grid-based system, and so some of the walls were built kind of quote-unquote off the grid. What would happen is your characters would rub up against the walls, and you would repeatedly just gain speed because the game's trying to shove you out of the wall while also you're trying to run into the wall. They just recently patched those out, but we're playing on an older patch because it's faster. Gotta do what you need to do for speed.
Yeah.
Coming up, here's just like the slow water section. Every character just has to go through this. It's long, boring. Probably the Deep Sea Zone 2 has been kind of like one of the worst parts of the run for a long time. Thankfully, it's in one of the next updates, so we'll be seeing a completely new version of it. And for some reason, they just put Red Springs right at the end of their long tower that has like actually has some cool platforming sessions, but they just said no one wants to do that. Let's just have a Red Springs so you can skip everything. Anyway, I hope you all enjoy Whack-A-Mole. We're going to be playing the Eggman variant of it. Deep Sea Zone 3 boss. He goes under the water and then pops up in one of 8 random locations. You can kind of proactively go after it, but that can lose you a decent bit of time, depending on where Eggman goes, and if you aren't super aware of where his shadow is, which you see his shadow below the water before he comes up, it can just be very frustrating. Once he goes into the pinch phase, he brings up 2 fake Eggmans. Very easy to tell because of the real Eggman just still gets the electric shockwave around him. Very clean fight there.
Yeah, I think it's time for probably my favorite level in the game. Castle Eggman 1, which is personally a favorite, which has had like a few intonations since its beginning. Also, that's not good. Linux, you wanna add to this?
Yes. So Castle Eggman 1, actually, ironically, well, Arcania says it's one of their favorites. I dislike this stage a lot because of the swing sections. Doing individual level runs, it can be very obnoxious to hit those swings. However, this stage has probably one of the best aesthetics of the entire game. Just in general, the dreary, rainy atmosphere, the lightning, and then just the looming castle in the background. The feel of this stage in general is amazing. It's actually interesting because this stage in particular has gone through the most iterations out of any stage in the game. In the original beta, it was just this horrid find a button to get the drawbridge down stage. Then the next version they made, it was a big library sort of deal where you had to drain water or fill up water into a thing, and then it was a forest. But now we have this, and this section here is actually really cool. This final bridge section, it's very difficult on your casual playthrough, and it has a really nice aesthetic to it from all the collapsing bridges around you. The song changes. Tails just flies over it though, because Tails is privileged.
It's also the reason why I really like the stage.
We are on to, as the community likes to call it, Castle Lagman 2. The stage is notorious in that it is extremely large, there's a lot of entities, and it's just lags all the time. They have attempted to patch the lag on like 4 separate occasions. It's gotten better, mind you, but it's still just misery.
Especially on known machines.
Mm-hmm. We are going to get the speed shoes, carry them through for a while. Tails is unique, and he's the only person who goes left in this area. Every other character takes the right. Just thanks to Tails' flight, he gets to skip over all the horde platforming and makes that part faster. And even better is there's a red spring right here that we're going to run into, and then Tails can just carry all that flight speed with him. Just again, something unique Tails can do because he's the only character in base game who can keep speed while going vertically.
That's not super great, but it's back upable, so yeah.
It's actually a very, very solid Castle Eggman 2. Anything under a minute 20 is very nice.
Yeah. This boss is pretty much straightforward. Like, push the buttons and yeah. It doesn't have any RNG.
This is the only boss fight in the game that features absolutely zero RNG, which is very funny because it has buttons, but the buttons are always in the same order. It goes red, blue, yellow, red, yellow, red, blue, and then red, blue, yellow. Every single time it's the same order. We have to hit these buttons to release the cage that Eggman is underneath, and then finally once we go into pinch phase, those buttons will break, and then we can fight Eggman directly, but yeah, it's the only stage without RNG, other than the fact that the little Eggman minions up in the crowd, their shirts change colors. This section can be kind of scary, mostly because if you accidentally run into one of the egg robos, they will hit you into the ground and you'll just get spiked into the bramble. Tails, it doesn't matter quite as much since he just flies back up, but other characters have to get back up there during the pinch phase where it's spinning faster. It's hard to time the springs correctly. So this is actually my personal favorite zone, Arid Canyon 1. The music here is excellent, and it has a lot of just free roaming potential. There's a lot of mod characters, and a lot of them love to showcase this stage in general to show the potential of their characters, and for good reason. The stage is just built on top of itself over and over and over again, and so it allows for a lot of free roaming, just jumping here and there, wherever you want. It has a lot of fun applications that you can just mess around with. Unfortunately, they end it with this pulley section, which is miserable, but thankfully every single character can skip it. You don't even have to think twice about them.
That was really clean.
That was excellent, actually, yes. We're actually coming up to ArcaniaCQ, which is also another excellent stage. It's got a lot of cool platforming. Tails doesn't care about any of it, though. He just travels on the outside of the map. But this stage is also unfortunately ruined by a bad funnel section. If any of you are big fans of Donkey Kong Country, you'll be very familiar with this. We have minecarts in Sonic, featuring similar perils to Donkey Kong, where small mistakes can easily cost you. The section is like 30 seconds long, and if you mess up, or if you die, you have to replay the whole thing. It's very thankfully, Tails' section, he does purposely grab this checkpoint, so it's not that big of a setback.
It's a little bit of a setback, but it's not bad. I can recover from that easily.
Yeah, there's a couple of real bad points. Mostly we don't want to take deaths during boss fights. We don't want to take deaths, obviously, like I said, in the minecart section. Those are like the big killers just because they're very, very long sections that we want to avoid. Here we actually jump, it lets us get to the ground sooner. Very funny. And so here's the longer minecart section. This has been kind of like the holy grail for the SRP2 community for a long time. We really want to find a way to skip this whole thing, but it seems pretty solid. We do have a minor skip coming up that saves about 10 seconds. I'm going to give Arcania some quiet here just to explain it. We're going to come backwards and then try and jump.
Ooh, no. We almost had it. So I'm just gonna play the stage as it's intended from this point.
We only want to give it one shot. It's a 10-second save, but again, this section is so long. Any run, like potential world record run, if you don't get that, you restart it instantly, and it's so late into the run, it's very sad. But you gotta do what you gotta do for speed. The real tough part about that is it's only a 2 to 3 frame window. Due to subpixels in SRV2, it changes the window for how easily you can do it, and it's always hard to tell exactly when you're on. Thankfully, there are a couple other skips, and some of them are 1-frame tricks, and some of them are 1-frame tricks, but also it matters on the subpixels, so sometimes you just can't even do it. We don't go for all of them because they're obviously impossible to do like that. And we now have probably the scariest boss fight, in my opinion, Fang. The first 5 hits are very simple, arguably the 6th hit too, technically. What's gonna happen here soon, though, is Fang goes into his pinch phase, where he decides, I'm gonna blow up all the walls, and also throw bombs. The bombs, even not on contact, like, they won't explode, but they knock you backwards. And getting hit by them like that will cause, yep. It's very difficult. And then we have to redo the whole boss fight. You hate to see it. Thing is a very notorious boss fight for a lot of runners, just because any accidental hit like that just ruins everything. While we're redoing Thing, I don't know if you have anything you would like to promote or...
Let me check here for you. Not at this current time, but I'll quickly just run through some of the open bid wars we have open. So we have, let's just see here. So we currently have a couple of bid wars open. One of them being for Fire Emblem Awakening. You get to choose the avatar name. That is currently open. And there are 4 open for the Final Fantasy Legend 2, where you can then choose the human name, the imp name, the robot name, and the baby D name. All of those are open, and the first nation will then choose, and from there, any following donations with the highest will be the name picked.
Thank you. Yeah. This kind of just showcasing how difficult Fang can be. He's also the highest RNG boss fight in the game. He has about, I think it was 16 different spots that he can jump to. This makes figuring out his attack pattern very difficult, and knowing that any instance can be just complete death. It's always nerve-wracking. Even on like just normal paced runs, Fang just does not let up.
Also very much a reset point for normal runs.
One of the nice things about being down below, Fang can't actually kill you there because the bombs won't knock you off the walls. There was a little funny section you just blast the signpost there. Get a little revenge, knock him out of the park. This is actually another really cool stage, Red Volcano Zone. It's a stage that's rather than built in a kind of like angular step-like pattern that most SRB2 stages are, it's very long and linear. This creates a very unique setting and like, almost one of the best environments in the game, in my opinion. There's a lot of tight movement here. Fortunately, got caught on the ceiling. Just a lot of just really good platforming and understanding like control of the game. Some of the characters actually use like a handful of boosts. There's a mechanic in this stage where you roll on rocks, but no character actually does it. It's incredibly slow. I think the only one that does anymore is there's 6 playable characters, and the only character that does is Amy, because she actually uses the rock for a shortcut. There's an upcoming section, we'll probably just fly right over it, but there are lava waves on the ground, and the collision on them is mapped incorrectly, or it's due to them moving, I think it's incorrect. But the front of them are completely harmless. You can touch them however much you want. It's very funny. We're gonna take our rocket ship and we're heading off to the last few acts. So Egg Rock 1, there's a section right at the beginning that I want to give Arcania a little bit of quiet time for. It can be a very scary run killer.
We got it. Nice.
Yeah, this section it can be kind of difficult. The problem with that is we're trying to skip over those platforms without actually, or the conveyors without actually using them. When you jump a certain height, the gravity in that area switches, and we're trying to jump just low enough that it won't. But if you jump just a bit too high, then you accidentally just careen off and die. Tails gets a little bit of a leeway on it because he has flight, but sometimes you just clip the edge of one of the conveyors, and then you go into your running animation and you can't fly anymore. This is actually one of the older stages in the game, completely unchanged other than there's a unique path for Amy that was added in. This has been around for over 10 years now, actually. Most of the maps have been almost completely redesigned except for Greenflower 1 and Greenflower 2, which has basically been kept the same for the longest time other than adding in a few other extra details. But the last 2 zones here have just kind of stayed stagnant. So Egg Rock 2 here is the longest stage in the game. Most characters need at least 2 minutes to finish the stage. Most people haven't even finished the stage in faster than like 3 minutes. Our goal is mostly to try and get a time around 2.5 minutes, but it's just a very long stage. Something funny too, if you saw at the beginning, there was a split path. The left path is just insanely long. There's a 2D section that you go through. There's like a couple more extra outer space sections. For some reason, it's just obnoxiously long, and it's just always been like that. We actually did a shortcut there, going into the air ventilation backwards. Normally, you're supposed to go out into the outer space, go do a fun little platforming section there, and then you go through a zoom tube and activate it, but Tails can just fly backwards through it. One of the things that makes Eggrock too long in general, these zoom tube sections, they're not long enough for a break, but at the same time they take up 5 seconds each section. 5 seconds each, and there's about 4 different sections that you're stuck like that. The elevator section, we turn the button on to restore the power. It turns on an elevator that we're supposed to ride up. Tails just goes to the ventilation shaft. We unfortunately can't skip all that because the button itself opens another door that's not near it at all. It's just how the level layout works.
Like Mega Man?
Here, these are the yoga blocks. Yeah. Be very nerve-wracking for Sonic runners, and seeing some of the individual levels where we skip them is actually really interesting. Because some characters don't even wait for the cycles, they just run off, jump across a couple, and get over to the button. This section can be a little nerve-wracking just due to the crushers, but oh, yeah, I just saw that. Thankfully, there is a checkpoint fairly close, and we have enough lives to spare. Getting a game over here is a travesty, just because then when you get a game over, you have to replay the whole stage. But we are getting out of that grok, excluding the death of sub 230, very nice. So we're in the final stretch here. We're going to be racing against Metal Sonic. And by racing, I mean we're going to be leaving him in the dust and never looking back. This can be quite tight for some newer players, but once you know the map layout. Also, for some reason, Eggman keeps choosing his air ventilation. Not sure why. This section actually, this whole platforming area is very fun. There's a lot of gravity switching segments. Again, Tails just doesn't care. When you have the ability to fly in a 3D plane, you will have very little concerns about anything. If you thought the race was it, there's a little bit more coming up with Metal, so if you like them, don't worry. So here is the Metal Sonic boss fight. Metal Sonic boss fight has been dissected for a long time. Even still, there's some weird stuff we don't understand. So to hit him, you have to like attack him, and then he sort of spins around where he's tangible, and then you can damage him. You have to do that a total of 5 times, and then we put him in his pinch phase. For every time, he's on like a set timer to where he'll go up and fire the attack, whichever currently phase he's on. Best case scenario, we get about 3 to 4 hits in, and then get the other 2 before he lands again. Here in the pinch phase, Metal Sonic just goes around the outside rim. He hits the walls 4 times total, and then he does his lap 3 times. There was a discovery we made that all the game checks for is that Metal Sonic hits the wall. So if you see like when he's charging up, he's like close to the magnets there. If you want to play super risky, you can go to the outside of the wall, and Metal Sonic will instantly hit them, and it saves him a full trip on hitting some of the walls. It's kind of difficult to do, and especially for marathon runs, it is not worth it, because you're replaying this whole boss fight, and that's like a whole extra minute tacked on. But that's the final hit. Very good Metal Sonic boss fight. We do get this neat little section where we're getting ready to go fight Eggman. This is probably next to Fang. This is one of the worst boss fights. He does have a quick kill, but we only have a 33% chance on it.
Yeah. And we don't get it.
Yeah, we're hoping to get the slime to come out on the furthest out one, which is why it's a 33% chance. Eggman will get hit by it as soon as possible, and then we can hit him. And Eggman just has this habit of not wanting to go into the goop, you know, making himself vulnerable. He's not about that for some reason. This boss fight is unique in that he takes 12 hits instead of the typical 8. He does also have a very scary pinch phase where the walls will break down. If you've noticed, like some of the attacks Eggman has been doing, he's been firing fire and shooting bombs. When he shoots those bombs, they actually have a lot of recoil on them and launch you backwards, meaning if you get hit by them, you're instantly dead. It doesn't matter too much at the start here because the walls are in the way. And you can see here, Eggman is just kind of deciding he doesn't like the slime.
Ooh, that was close.
Very high tensions here, so the walls are down. Trying to avoid any accidental hits. We also want to avoid not hitting Eggman. One of the scarier run killers. Oh, we got him. Time is actually coming up here in a moment. So then a little play, Arcania, if you want to count it down. Once we hit the button, we'll be jumping into space, and should be time.
Time. Yeah, that was a pretty good run actually, even though it was overestimate. But
I say that's pretty fun run to watch. I will just bring up now. We had a donation from Xenia, $30 donation. Thank you very much, Xenia. I saw you in the chat, so really appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Xenia.
thank you very much, Sonia.
So while we wrap up here, is there anything that you guys want to plug while we finish up?
Yeah, I want to plug both my commentator, of course, Lenik, which is, as said, a Knuckles runner, but also runs the 200 emblems, which is kind of the 100% category of this game. I also want to plug the SRB2 Discord community and the speedrun community for it as well, because both those two are amazing. Been part of them both for some time now, so it's been pretty neat. It's been pretty neat. There's some pretty neat people there, and if you want to learn this game, it's a perfect place to go to either, well, to both those servers, really.
And in general, I just want to plug SRB2. This game is free. You can download it at srb2.org right now, and it costs you $0. Excellent Sonic game. There's a huge modded community for it. You can play literally any character you want. It is fantastic. There's endless content.